It's time to wake to sleep with Sleep Science Today, where we learn to sleep well with your host, Andrew Colsky on UK Health Radio.
Hello, Andrew Colsky here with Sleep Science Today, and our episode today is going to be talking about sleep and maybe even perfect sleep. We have our guest speaker today, Sherry from Vital Rest and Recovery Clinic. She does sleep coaching. And Sherry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great. We talked before about the mural behind you, which is this beautiful, beautiful tile mural that you have in your office, I guess. And, just real briefly, tell us a little bit about that, because I'm sure people have questions because it's so nice.
Well, I reside in Puerto Vallarta at the moment. And, when we moved here, it was very important to myself and my partner to create like this really, safe, vibrant, happy home, and to include a lot of original art, which you don't really get a chance to do in the States because, of the cost and everything involved. So we found a local street artist, and this is a huge, massive wall behind me. There's an iconic painting of the Malacon that he replicated in mosaic and tiles. And he was here I was living in a building site for like 6 weeks, but the effect is stunning. And it's something we can walk out and it brings us a lot of joy when we see it in the morning. Yeah.
No, it's beautiful. And for those of you that are listening on audio only, you can always see this show on YouTube where you'll see the video portion and you'll be able to see this beautiful mural behind Sherry as she's speaking. So we invite you to take a look there. Sleep Science Today. You'll find us on YouTube as well. So let's start talking about sleep, and let's start off with this concept of a person who is seeking perfection in their sleep. Do you run across those?
I do, and actually I specialize in those because that person's me. So I understand this quest on a deep core level. Yeah.
Great. Well, tell us what is, we hear a lot today about the sleep trackers, the Apple Watch, the Fitbits, the Garmins, all these different devices out there. And some of them give sleep scores. And, the dirty little secret behind it is they each have their own technology and their own algorithms, and they don't share it with others in the sleep community. So you don't really know how they're coming up with their sleep score. But then you have people trying to achieve the perfect 100 score. So there's an idea that I can see where people are seeking that perfection. What do you find with the clients that you work with?
It's really interesting, Andrew, and this is probably not what you expect. So me personally, I was really helped by using a sleep tracker because I'm someone who I was bouncing between light sleep and awake, paradoxical sleep. And I would wake up, think, oh, I haven't been asleep. Oh, crap. Go back to sleep, wake up, and be like, oh my gosh, I'm still awake. And I had no idea I was doing this until I started wearing a sleep tracker. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, I was actually asleep between those two times. And I had absolutely no idea. I was asleep and I would have a dream that I was awake. And I would wake up in a panic. I've had other clients like this as well. And even, not a client, but my stepfather. My mother would tell me stories about sleeping next to him. He would be fast asleep. She'd hear him snoring. All of a sudden he would jump out of bed and be like, oh, I can't sleep. 0 to 90 in like a second. And then at the same time, I have other clients who were sleeping fine, started wearing a sleep tracker, looked at it and said, oh no, I'm sleeping so much less than I thought I was. I must have a problem. And that's what starts their insomnia. So I always tell clients that it's really about what works for them. It doesn't matter what works for everyone. It matters what
Right.
works for you. And we do little experiments, a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time to see, is this helpful or is this stressful?
Right, right. Well, it's. I'm really glad to hear your answer there because, I practice behavioral sleep medicine myself, and so we do a lot of sleep diaries and sleep tracking, and in some cases, you get clients who come in and they say, "My gosh, I haven't slept in 3 days or 4 days. I'm afraid I'm never going to sleep again," and it could be very true that they haven't slept in 3 days, but the bigger story you start to learn about, they feel like they just have never slept. They're just never going to sleep again and they don't know what to do about it. And the reality is that they are sleeping at times. It could be micro sleeps, it could be napping, it could be all sorts of things. And with some clients, they're just not aware, like you said. And so in that case, like I have one right now, we just started him on a sleep tracker specifically because he doesn't know, he's not aware of whether he's napping or not or how long. And so it can be really beneficial for those purposes. So yeah, I agree with you. Yep.
Yeah, sometimes we just have to be retrained to recognize sleep.
Hmm. So when a client comes to you, maybe you have an example of like a sort of a typical client or something, even using yourself, since you said you're dealing with this. What does it mean when someone is seeking perfect sleep? Are they seeking a certain amount of sleep or a sleep score, or what are they really looking for?
So it can be a little bit of everything. The most common thing I get in my clinic is either someone looking for a set amount of time, like they think they should sleep 8 hours, or maybe they're sleeping 6 hours and 50 minutes, but it's 10 minutes
Hmm.
less than what we've been told is the 7 hour minimum. And they're all freaked out about it. Other clients come in because as they've grown older, they've started waking throughout the night to do things like, use the bathroom. And that doesn't match the sleep that they were used to from when they were younger. And no one has told them that sleep changes as you age. So they think that, again, that it's a problem, and they're actually feeding into the problem by becoming stressed about it.
Hmm. Hmm. And that is also another important point there, that a teenager is going to have a very different sleep requirement than someone who might be in their 60s, 70s, or 80s.
Yeah.
And I guess sometimes it's hard for people to realize that, well, I used to sleep this way, but now I'm sleeping a different way. And some of it is just the natural aging process, and there's nothing wrong with their sleep. It's just different. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it could be really, really interesting to talk with people about their perceptions on it.
Yeah.
So for you in your own journey, what would you describe sort of a perfect night of sleep for you?
Well, now that I'm a sleep coach and I've had a lot of education about it, I don't have a definition of a perfect night. I understand that my body automatically generates the amount of sleep that it needs. And if I stay out
Hmm.
of its way, then it will rebalance on its own. So it's very common to go through a period of time where maybe you've got some extra stress, you're extra busy, you've had some life changes. Maybe you're excited, like the day before your wedding. Do you really expect to sleep the night before your wedding the same as you would any other night? Like, absolutely not, you know? And so the body's built to do that, and the body's built to recover from that.
Hmm.
Prior to this, I went through a particularly strong bout of insomnia a few years ago where I wasn't as educated, and I did get really caught up in the numbers. And I was that person saying, I only slept 6 hours and 45 minutes last night. What's wrong with me? And my brain was going, that's pretty close. It's okay. And the other side, is having a fight going, no, it's less than 7 hours. You're going to die. And so I was really personally chasing that 7 hours.
Hmm.
And that was, then because of how stressed I got, the amount of time I was waking up, got to where I was waking up, 6, 7, 8 times a night. And, so that it progressed basically from there because my stress was feeding the situation. But for me, my definition was really, I need to be getting a minimum of 7 hours, or there's something really wrong with me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And so, I know that you work with clients with all different types of issues. And one of the things that I saw you had a video up on your own website about is something called the yips. And I had never
Yeah.
heard that word before. So can you tell us what is a yip?
Yes. So I was passively watching an episode of Young Sheldon. And
Uh,
young Sheldon got the yips, which was something to do, God, was it to do with math or something, the yips is usually sports. It can also be, surgeons or musicians, anything really, but it tends to affect motor skills. And the general definition is something that you could do before that all of a sudden you
mhm.
can no longer do. So you see it with, baseball players where all of a sudden they start striking out, or soccer players where they can't hit the goal. And so in the case of this show, it was something mental where he had been able to solve these problems, and all of a sudden he couldn't. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is exactly what happens with my clients when they overtry, and all of a sudden they feel like they lose the ability to sleep.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So that definitely ties into the client seeking that perfection.
Yeah. And,
Hmm.
there are so many people who they just, and I know this is a little repetitive, but they experience a few bad nights, bad nights, disturbed nights. And instead of saying, like, oh, this is completely normal and I'm fine, they want to be healthy. They want to do what's best for themselves. It comes from a desire to take care of yourself, which is very natural and we all want to do. And the
Hmm.
issue is that we're taught that we can control sleep, and we can't. It's the same as trying to control your liver releasing bile, or your eyes moistening themselves, or the saliva in your mouth. We can do things to help set the body up for success, but we can't micromanage the body. And at some points, we just have to let go and trust that the body's going to do what it's designed to do.
Right. Right. Yeah, and that's another thing that, as I started to learn on sort of my journey, learning about sleep medicine and sleep health and all, the thing that I learned that I've learned to sort of describe to patients in this way is that if I were to tell you to hold your breath, you could hold your breath for probably quite some time. But at some point, your body is going to make you breathe. You're not going to be able to
Yes.
hold your breath to the point that you pass out and die. It's just not
Yeah.
possible because your body is going to react. And it's the same with sleep. It may feel like, oh my gosh, I haven't slept in so many nights and I'm never going to sleep again. And I'm so afraid that, I've lost the ability to sleep. And the answer is your body is going to sleep when it's ready to sleep. It may be out of whack right now. We may want to kind of recalibrate some things, but it's not like you're never going to sleep again.
Yeah.
So from that point, I want to talk a little bit about what you do about that when you have a client come in. But before you do that, we need to stop to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. You're watching Sleep Science Today. If you enjoy our show, please help support us by pressing the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. It'll really help us get seen, and it'll help you stay informed. All right, we're back on Sleep Science Today. We've got Sherry here from Vital Rest and Recovery Clinic. We're talking about sleep and perfection. So we've talked about issues that different clients may have with sleep. So now let's talk about, what do you do about it?
And that's such a loaded question because it is so individual to different clients. I could have 3 different clients come in and they all need very different things. The
Hmm.
general basis, to give a big picture view, is to see, where they are with their routine. Are they under trying or over trying? um, Meaning, do they have a healthy lifestyle where they are making time for sleep and they've been implementing best practices around, exercise and sunlight and these kinds of things? Are they not making time for sleep and expecting just, turn flip an off switch like they're a robot at the end of the day?
Hmm.
And then, if they are doing the basics to help support their body in having a healthy circadian rhythm and getting good sleep, then we want to look at their thought processes, how much stress they have around sleep, what's worrying them, and also things in their life, right? Because they could have an ongoing situation at work or with a family member or a big move or whatever it is. What is causing stress in their life that's unresolved?
Hmm.
And on the higher end, I also work with people who have had traumatic events, car accidents, deaths, those kinds of things that their nervous system is stuck on and needs to be recalibrated, and they need a bit of help just rebalancing after those events.
Right, right. So, you've talked about different specific types of things that are impacting a person's life in many ways, one of which is sleep. So, obviously, anxiety, trauma, these types of
Hmm.
events are going to have an impact on us in many ways.
Yeah.
And, I want to talk a little bit more about that. But first, let me ask from just the basic situation of, you know, we our housing is becoming more and more expensive, which means that
Mm.
people, especially in larger metropolitan areas, don't have these large open spaces with a bedroom and a living room and all the rooms that they might have. You have a lot of people living in efficiency apartments. So you come in and your bed is sort of a central piece of furniture in a way. And
Mm.
it becomes not only your bed, but it becomes your desk where you watch TV, where you play video game, the whole deal.
Mhm.
And I know that one of the things you work with is sleep hygiene.
Yeah.
So, do you have clients like that? And if so, what do you suggest to them to do?
You know, it really depends on how much I think is being influenced by their environment and how much has that they've moved over into thoughts. If it's gone to a place where someone is almost scared of sleep and scared of their bed, because that's what they associate with insomnia, it can actually be helpful to stay in bed doing relaxing activities to make friends with your bed again, right?
Okay.
Because otherwise it's like walking into your torture chamber. But if it's someone who yeah, but if it's someone who maybe is in the more beginner stages, and I do feel like, hey, this is environmental, they've just been spending way too much time here, we can talk about things like maybe you have enough room that you have a smaller piece of furniture like a beanbag chair or something like that, a cushion to sit on that you could you could gravitate from the bed to there for the more stimulating activities. I have some clients who put a curtain up, and they put a curtain around the
Mm,
bed to divide their space so that when they are playing video games or doing something more active, they can't see the bed, and it gives the illusion of being in 2 separate rooms.
right.
You could also, if you're really tight and in a pinch, you can switch position on the bed. So maybe you face the opposite direction, and you put your head at the foot of the bed versus where you sleep, just to give your body a different perspective. So it knows that, like, are you sitting up versus lying down? So your body knows that, like, hey, when I'm facing this direction and I'm laying down, that's sleep time. When I'm facing the opposite way and I'm sitting up, that's playtime. And for some people, that's enough of a divide. And also, we have to work with what we have.
Hmm. Right, right. Yeah, it's, the other day, actually, I've seen articles about this a couple times in the last maybe 2, 3 months. I don't know why. Um, Sleep boxes, going back to the I think it was the Victorian times, if I don't have my history wrong here. So you're picturing, we don't have electric light, we don't have air conditioning, we don't have any of the conveniences that exist today. And they would sleep in, basically their bed was encased in a box. So you would kind of get in and then close the doors, and then you're sleeping inside there because it would maintain the warmth from the cold nights.
Right.
And just the concept, I think one of the articles I saw was related to this concept of people living in efficiencies and all, and how are they separating off their bed. Just something, an interesting fact that I never knew about and recently learned about.
But something I came across, I haven't had a client who's used this, but something I came across on Amazon a few years ago was sleep tents. And now this was being used more for children, I believe, than adults. So like say you were visiting someone and the kid was sleeping in the living room. You could put the tent around to give them some privacy, but it makes sense that something like that could also work in an efficiency type space where you're trying to put some boundaries up.
You're bringing me back to my childhood days, because we used to always build, we would call them forts, and we would get like chairs, and then we'd drape the comforter over the chairs and pin it in place, and we'd create this internal little fort. I never slept in it, but it was an interesting idea.
Yeah, it is a little similar to that. So I guess if you don't want to buy one on Amazon and you're short on cash, you can create an adult fort.
Right.
And give it a try.
There you go. Not a bad suggestion. There's probably people that do that. And I guess it is similar to kind of putting up curtains like you were suggesting, and, cordoning off a certain area. So, interesting. So, okay. So, there's some people who, like you said, everybody is different, and some people can benefit from certain types of sleep routines and things, and other people might not benefit as well. How would someone figure out what is going to be best for them?
Yeah. So, and this calls into, I call it differential diagnosis, where you kind of look at the information available and you can kind of ask yourself, have I been putting effort into sleep? Am I setting aside time? Am I winding down before sleep? Do I have a sleep? I heard someone describe it as a sleep runway. Like, the plane is going in for landing and it can't just come straight down. It needs, it needs some runway. It needs time to stop. And humans are the same. So, we need at least 30 minutes to wind down for sleep. Are you allowing that time? How stressed are you during the day? Have you put time in for yourself? Are you taking care of yourself, or are you only taking care of other people? So that's where I would start, because sleep hygiene is the easiest to implement, right? And then after that, if you feel like you've been trying everything, and no matter what you do, it is just getting worse and worse, and you feel like you can't sleep, and you feel almost like panic type symptoms, thinking about sleep or coming up to bedtime, if you've stopped doing a lot of your daily activities because of lack of sleep, if researching about sleep and how to sleep is taking up most of your day, then you likely need to do some sleep behavior work, where you look at your sleep thoughts and ideas and expectations, and we look at understanding. Sleep education, I think, is so key, getting a really good, solid understanding of sleep, and looking at how we can work with the body and mind to reframe some of those thoughts so that sleep is less scary and you can step back and allow it to happen. Then, other minor categories are, middle-aged women. Have you had your hormones checked? That's a big one. And also, if you've had any accidents, head injuries, traumatic events, and your sleep changed afterwards, it could be helpful to then look at some nervous system rebalancing.
So, because every client is unique and different, I wonder, do you have people who come to you and they say to you, I've been trying this over-the-counter supplement, or I tend to, want to have a glass of wine before bed, or I'm using, maybe they drink a lot of caffeine or coffee or soda during the day. Do you ever deal with clients with that? And if so, what do you suggest to them?
Yeah, so I always go in the form of experiments because,
Hmm.
and a really great way to sum this up, right, is if you have a magnesium deficiency, then taking magnesium will likely work for you, and that's amazing. But for the 99% of us, I'm just throwing a number out there. But for
Sure.
many of us with sleep problems, magnesium is not the problem. Taking a magnesium supplement isn't going to work, and can actually feed the issue then, because you're like, oh my gosh, nothing works. I'm definitely broken what to do. So, what I like to suggest people do is if they think something might be a problem or might be a solution, they either try putting something in or taking something out for
Hmm.
the course of a week or two. And you want to give it that long because there are so many times when we try something. I'm going to use the magnesium as an example. You think, oh, I've heard magnesium is good for sleep. You take magnesium through the power of suggestion and the placebo effect. You sleep really well, and you think, oh my gosh, I've solved it. This is amazing. It works for 1 to 3 nights maybe, and then
Hmm.
all of a sudden you can't sleep again. And when this happens over and over and over again, that's very damaging for your sleep confidence and your psyche. So
Right.
to make sure that something is actually the problem and give it a chance to work and your body to adapt to it, you want to try it for ideally 2 weeks. And if you do something and you're sleeping better every single night for 2 weeks, then great, that might be a part of your solution. But
Hmm.
don't get it too attached to everything you try, because these are just experiments. And it does take a bit of time to figure out sometimes what exactly works and does not work for you.
Right. Right. Great. Great. Wonderful. So, one of the other things that I know, because you and I had a chance to talk before, is that you practice both CBTI and ACTI. Now, I
Yes.
practice CBTI, and quite honestly, I haven't heard of ACTI before. And I'd love to be able to talk about those. But before we do, got to take a short little break here, and then we'll come back and talk about those.
All right.
You're watching Sleep Science Today. If you enjoy our show, please help support us by pressing the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. It'll really help us get seen, and it'll help you stay informed. All right, we're back with Sleep Science Today. I'm your host, Andrew Colsky. We're talking with Sherry from Vital Rest and Recovery Clinic, and we are just about to get into a discussion and learn about CBTI and ACTI. So, Sherry, can you explain what are they and how do they work and what do you do with them?
Yeah. So basically, the way I sum it up in my head is they're both sleep behavior. They both fall under the category of sleep behavior. CBTI puts a lot of focus on establishing a healthy sleep routine. So that's things like, not getting into bed until you're tired, getting out of bed at the same time every day. If you can't sleep and you're lying there for about 20 minutes, get up out of bed, because you don't want to be lying there stressing that you can't sleep. And what CBTI is looking for is to train the body to sleep in the bed. That's the only thing the bed is for. And we're looking at sleep efficiency over sleep quantity, because it's better to get a consolidated amount of healthy sleep than a large amount of fragmented sleep over a longer period.
Mhm.
So the difference with, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to jump in there. So, you talked about sleep
Yeah.
efficiency, and I just wanted to say so, sleep efficiency is the time that I'm in bed, I'm actually sleeping versus
Yes.
someone who's inefficient. They'd be in bed, tossing and turning and awake and trying to sleep, but not actually sleeping.
Yes, and just to make the point as well that these don't necessarily correlate with Aura Ring scores or any other sleep trackers, because, like you said, they have their own algorithm. So, in
Mm-hmm.
CBTI terms, you're literally looking at how much time you were in bed out of that time, how much time were you asleep? And you really want to be aiming for something in and around 80 to 90%. You don't want to aim for 100%, by the way, interestingly enough, because that's not normal, and that could mean that there's a deeper problem going on that's causing you to oversleep. So just to throw that out there. Sorry for throwing a grenade out.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
So,
So
so
yeah.
yeah, well, so I interrupted your flow, but you were going to tell us about
Okay.
ACTI and how that's different.
Yes. So, CBTI is considered to be gold standard. That means that in sleep research, it's been shown to be the most effective thing for insomnia and disturbed sleep. What happens is you get a subset of people, like me, who have problems with sleep perfection. And what happens is we want to win at CBTI. We want to be the best CBTI client you have ever met. And oh my gosh, if I'm going to get up, I am up. I'm up. And that does lead to things like dreams that you were awake when you weren't awake and jumping out of bed because you want to be a good client. And so you actually adhere too strictly to the CBTI rules. And by doing so, you make yourself even more stressed. It was actually through CBTI that I ended up waking up 6 to 10 times a night because I was so focused on trying to do it right and stressed about that. So ACTI, that's acceptance and commitment therapy for insomnia. And what that focuses on is less structure and more about accepting that you are awake and what can you do about it. So if I wake up in the middle of the night, and in a practicality form, someone's doing CBTI, they wake up at night, they can't sleep, they get out of bed because you only want to associate the bed with sleep. ACTI says that if you wake up and you can't sleep, you do a check-in with yourself. Am I relaxed and comfortable in my bed? Do I feel like if I keep lying here, I could fall asleep? I'm happy to be here. This is a nice, safe space for me. If your internal feeling is, then we say get out of bed and go do something enjoyable because you can't control the fact that you are awake. You can choose to then use that time to be as relaxed and comfortable as possible and reach for something that feels good. And what's going to feel good is going to be different for everyone. So that's the really big difference. I still have people get up at the same time every day, regardless of what I'm practicing, because that is really a key point for the body to set the circadian rhythm and really help you to sleep at night. Everything else outside of that, for me with clients, is fluid, and it's based on that individual client and what they tell me works for them.
So, I know that another thing that you do with your clients is you teach them breath work and yoga nidra. And you've spoken about some of the breathing earlier in the podcast. Can you tell us more about that? What does it really mean when you say breath work? What does that look like?
So for me, it's a little bit different from a lot of what you find out on YouTube and different places, because when a lot of people think breath work, they're thinking of a cadence, like a count, like a 5-5 or a 4-7-8. I was trained in embodied breath work, which is a somatic practice. So we're really delving deeply into the body to try and notice as much as we can feel with a felt sense, with our senses. What can we smell? What can we see in our mind's eye? What can we hear? What can we feel? Especially feeling internal sensations. And that was a revelation to me. Because I'd never done that. I'd done meditation. I did meditation retreats. And I had never done that before. And that power, so many of us are disconnected from our bodies. And we focus in on our thoughts. And we focus in on our sleep thoughts. We don't focus in on how much stress and tension are we carrying down here. And they've actually, done brain studies. And they found that language is on, and if I get this mixed up because I'm talking to you in the moment, then have grace with
Mm-hmm.
me. But language is on the left side of the body, which is the story that we tell.
Mm-hmm.
Felt sense and emotions is on the right side. And so if you're working with one side of the brain and not the other, that's not the whole story. And you can still be carrying, especially when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel stress, when something big happens. And our internal thing is, oh no, poop. It's likely things are getting stored on the right side. And so if you're only working with the story and the thoughts and you aren't bringing the body into it, you're not accessing that stored stress.
Mm-hmm.
So embodied breath work really ties in. I'm also training in somatic experiencing, which is a body-based trauma therapy. And the embodied breath work ties in very well with that. So when I'm working with someone, I put a lot of focus on what's happening inside. What do you feel when you do that? Can you feel the air coming into your left nostril and then switch over to your right? Do you have control over that? Can you feel each rib articulating? And what that does is it taps into the right side of the brain and makes the left and right communicate with each other and strengthens that communication. And it also takes all of this extra energy that's up in the head, giving us all these circular thoughts and doom and gloom situations. Yeah, and it's bringing it back down into the body. So we're not arguing with them. We're not trying to make them go away. We're accepting
Mm-hmm.
that they're there, and we're shifting our focus somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. So how hard is it for your clients to kind of catch on and be able to implement this and use this as a daily exercise for themselves?
It's all across the board. I get some people who tell me that they aren't into this at all, but they will give it a try. And then they have these amazing, beautiful, you know, just sessions that would want to make you cry, just the, emotions and the visions and the felt sense. And I have other people who I say, oh, what did you feel? Well, I think, and I'm like, but what did you feel? Yeah. And I'm looking for feelings and I get thoughts and then I have them close their eyes and go meditatively. And then I might be able to access emotions, but I'm still not getting feelings. And some of them don't even want to close their eyes. They don't feel comfortable closing their eyes. So those people, I start off with things like, do you have water on the table? Hold your water bottle. What's the temperature? What's the texture? How much can you notice? Have a drink of your water. Feel it in your
Mm-hmm.
mouth. How is that different from before you drink your water? Squeezing your hands super tight into fist and feeling all of that tension. And then you release and feel the blood come back in. And how does that feel? And what do you notice? So I start off, again, assessing people and I meet them where they are instead of trying to make them be ready for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I'm curious. If you think back to the different clients that you've worked with over time,
Mm.
is there one that kind of stands out as sort of this poster child where they came in with a really difficult situation and then they did the work and they came out on the other side just totally a different person?
Yeah, I can think of two actually. One was someone who I knew, and I said, "Hey, I just developed this sleep course, and I knew that this person had suffered with insomnia for a really long time, and I said, could you just, try it out and give me feedback." And within 2 weeks, he was going around telling everyone that his insomnia was gone, and he'd had it for years, and I was like, oh wow, I'm amazed. And so, I mean, I'm not saying everyone's going to have that experience. I was very impressed with how quickly he picked up on the concepts and was able to implement them and see a change.
Mhm.
And I had another one more recently who I was doing somatic work with. And she had a lot going on, if like there was a job scam and a lot of financial stress and a car accident where she had a concussion. And I mean, just this constant like survival instinct kicking in because of where she was in her life. And she'd been having trouble sleeping for the last year and a half. She'd been waking up in the middle of the night and had a really hard time going back to sleep. And so I worked with her somatically a lot. And after the first 2 weeks, she was sleeping through the night. I just finished we just finished month 4 together. And to this day, she's still sleeping through the night. She's tired because of how much stress, because then halfway through our treatment, she had a second concussion because someone rear-ended her. I mean, it's just, she's just in one of these nonstop, periods that we go through in life sometimes.
Right.
And despite all of that, she was still tired from the amount of stress she was under, and she didn't feel good. And she was still sleeping through the night after month 4, despite everything that was happening.
Wow. Well, that's wonderful. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that there's the success. And that's the thing, is that there are lots of opportunities for success when we talk about sleep issues, and lots of ways to approach it. And as you've made it clear, everybody is unique and individual. But we are out of time for today. So I want to thank you again for taking the time out of your day to share all this information with me and with my audience. And a reminder to the audience that if you would like to see this mural that I spoke about and you are only listening to us in audio, visit us on YouTube at Sleep Science Today, and you'll be able to see it. And also don't forget to claim your free ebook. If you go to sleepsciencetoday.com, you can sign up and get a free ebook. So trying to bring you things that are meaningful and helpful for you. So Sherry, thank you so much. And we wish you a wonderful day.
You as well. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you for listening to Sleep Science Today and learning how to sleep better with your host, Andrew Colsky, on UK Health Radio. For more information on how you can achieve better sleep, go to sleepsciencetoday.com. Remember, sleep science today and sleep better tonight.